Most people don't know or don't care who you are. Sometimes if I tell somebody who I am, they'll say, no, you ain't.
Let's give a big round of applause for the one and only Mr. Bill Withers. Give him a big round of applause.
We are here at the 7th annual Silverdocs Film Festival. I'm with directors of Still Bill, Damani Baker and Alex Vlack. Welcome and thank you. Congratulations for your submission. Bill Withers, this incredible giant of R&B music. How did you find him and how did you get him to agree to be the subject of your documentary?
Finding him was, we actually started this project basically pre-internet. That tells you how long ago it was. I mean, the internet was there, but not that many people were using it. He didn't have a website. Nobody really had any contact information, so we actually started trying to find his contact information through Sony and the people who had produced greatest hits records, and various doors would open at different times and then sort of slam back shut. And we finally got his wife's email address, who was his manager, and sent her emails for 3 or 4 years, sort of talking about this idea that we had to do a film and that we wanted to do a tribute concert. And that was not always, wasn't really, that door sort of creaked open, but not that much. And then finally he agreed to do one short interview in support of this concert that we got together, and that turned into 350 hours of footage over 3 years.
The hardest thing to be in songwriting is to be simple and yet profound. Bill seemed to understand how to do that.
Most of the major record companies called me up. They had this rhythm and blues syndrome in their mind with the horns and the 3 chicks and the gold lame suit. And I wasn't really into that. So I thought, well, I got this good job making these toilets. I don't need you cats.
I'd say we're still looking for Bill Withers. I think we're still looking for Bill Withers. I mean, so much of the film is, it's a portrait. It's a journey into the mind of someone who is, at this point in his life, a father, a husband, and he's not really that interested in kind of like going backwards. So in making a film about someone's life, we're learning about him as he's deciding what he'd like to share.
For those of us who are familiar with Bill's work, what can we discover about Bill the man in this film, Still Bill?
I think the film is actually about Bill the man. I mean, we didn't really, in the beginning, set out to make a traditional biopic. We've joked about all of the facts about Bill's life and the hits and when the albums were recorded and what songs are on them. That's all available to pretty much anyone in the world. I mean, you can go online and find all of that pretty easily. But we were most interested in finding out who the man was behind not just the music, but it's really the lyrics. I mean, you think about what he writes. I mean, it's poetry, it's metaphor, it's culture, it's tradition, it's all these little bits and pieces that I think affected pretty much everyone who's ever listened to him. So that's the person we wanted to meet.
So how do you go about creating this picture of a man?
Patience.
Yeah, patience is the answer to that question. Following him and letting him lead you and sort of having the patience and I guess having the presence of mind to just listen and let him lead us. I mean, he led this film. We didn't lead him at all. And he took us on the journey that he wanted us to go on with him. And that's how we arrived here, so.
And we had to be okay with that.
We had to be okay with that. We couldn't force him.
Right.
No one is ever going to force Bill Withers to do anything. He does everything on his own terms. So we met his family when it was time to meet his family, and we met his friends when it was time to meet his friends. And that took years to allow to happen, and we thank him for the generosity of, letting us in that way.
I think Al said earlier today that in documentary form, the director is not God. The director is led by, the character or the piece.
Yeah.
So so that was a challenge for you. How did you guys overcome that, and how did you move forward with?
How did we make?
How did you make a film with someone so
unpredictable that we're following?
Exactly.
That's a good question. I think that's actually the job of a documentary filmmaker. I mean, that is your job, to show up and be willing to sit and listen and be patient and take notes on everything going on around you. And when you have a character like Bill Withers, he has a lot of notes to share. So, our job was just showing up. I mentioned kind of creating safe spaces that we thought he'd be comfortable in, and if he showed up, we'd maybe get a scene out of it. And so it was really this challenge of creating scenes, and then hopefully those scenes, when put together, would make some type of coherent narrative. But really, that's every step on the day-to-day. Like, what are we doing tomorrow? We're creating a scene. Will he show up? I don't know, but let's see what happens. If he doesn't, we don't have anything. If he does, we still may not have anything. But that was
Well,
our
and then
job.
we would have Plan B.
And then we'd have Plan B.
That'll be a B-roll day or something
Right,
like that, you know.
right.
But, I mean, I think there's two different kinds of documentaries in a way. There's sort of like the ones that are really, really sort of planned and laid out and sort of thoughtfully crafted, like Man on Wire and things like that are incredible, and they're sort of doing that thing. They're not necessarily always as emotional as the other kinds of films. And so then there's like the other kinds of films, which is just this thing of just being receptive to life and trying to be there as it happens.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone.
There's millions and millions of people that would love to hear Bill Withers again.
Do you feel that since your involvement with Bill, he's been reignited to produce a new album or to put something out there? He's got this archive of music. Do you see him, or do you foresee him doing anything for his fans and for the public?
I hope so.
He will do. He will do it. Whatever he does, he will do it on his own terms, and we will be the last people to know about that. He remains a mystery to both of us, and that's what's incredible about him. I have no idea what the answer to that question is.
It's true. I mean, there is music we've never heard, and of course that drives us to want to know more. I feel like this document is just that. You know, it's what we made. It's this one moment in Bill's life that he was willing to let two kind of punk kids in and like ask them a bunch of questions for a few years, and who knows what's going to happen over the next day.
He's got archives. He's got hard drives.
Yeah,
He's got music.
there's lots of music.
What's the biggest lesson that you've learned from Bill?
Wow, that's a good question.
I love, everybody actually kind of says this, but I love the, on your way to wonderful, you're going to have to pass through all right. And when you get to all right, take a look around. That might just be where you end up. I think a lot of people watch that and they sort of pinpoint the moment in their lives when they realize that about themselves. And they sort of say, maybe I won't win the Pulitzer Prize by the time I'm 24, because actually I'm 35. And, maybe I won't be accepting the Oscar this year, and all these things that are really amazing. That process, that I think that's a relatively universal truth.
Yeah.
At least for people who are as, blindly self-important and self-interested as I am. I always grew up believing in myself in that way.
Totally. And I would totally agree. And for me, it's being okay with who you are. I mean, it's just the theme of the film. It's about his family. It's about him being okay with who he is as a 70-year-old. It's like wherever you are, take a look around and be okay with it.
You guys have created a beautiful document to share with
Thank you.
his grandchildren.
Thank you.
Where can we get it? Where is it available? Do we have a website that our viewers can go to?
There's stillbillthemovie.com. Will contain updates on screenings and distribution.
Fabulous job, fellas. Thank you again for your work, your commitment, your dedication.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. My children will know who Bill Withers is, so I thank you.
That's awesome. Okay, here we go.
I'm Alex Vlack,
I'm Damani Baker.
and you're watching Reelblack.